All right, we'd like to welcome all of you here today. I know that some of you, this is your home, so we hope that you had a great summer, a nice break. I know it's always challenging. Am I in the right spot? DJ, should I stay there? It's always challenging to come back. Some of that stress comes back. I know we have Power School, we have our ed plan that's changing, so a lot going on, but we hope that, our kickoff and listening to Bryce, and I'll introduce him in a second, that we can kind of energize ourselves and take on, kind of this upcoming year. Just in case you may not recognize me, I'm Jared Abney. I'm the new Assistant Special Education Director. And in conjunction with Juliana, our director, we have worked with CTE and Rod Belknap in kind of coordinating and this whole event. And Bryce, I don't know if you want to come up, but you can just wait a second. But Bryce Weiler is our kind of guest presenter, and Bryce is from Illinois, and he comes from a small kind of a farm town. And I learned a little bit at dinner yesterday that his father's a farmer, kind of that hardworking middle class, type family. But he told me of the kind of the encouragement and that his parents have given him to come out to advocate for individuals with exceptionalities and different limitations, whether those are visually impaired or blind students. And Bryce has done quite a bit in the sense of advocating for individuals in kind of this accessibility, For example, he loves to go out to stadiums, sports stadiums, and try and help them see where there might be barriers for individuals with disabilities and kind of advocate for them and talk about how we could create spaces that make accessibility quite easy for them. He also has a great foundation, Beautiful Lives. Remind me, is that right, Bryce? I don't have my note. Beautiful Lives Project, and he works again with these professional and college teams to somewhat like Special Olympics and unified sports, but bringing together athletes and students with special needs to come and have that experience, the kind of that sport experience, whether that's excitement in meeting some of maybe their heroes, right, and that play football, but just having that experience and having that access to some of those sports events. As I've gotten to know Bryce, and he and my daughters, we had a great time, just better understanding, Bryce, and beyond his advocacy, he's just a great individual. He kind of sees his niche and his focus in helping others. And he's really dedicated himself to helping those individuals have access to all kinds of the things that maybe we might take for granted. So, Bryce, if I could just have you come on up, and I'll turn the time over to him for a little presentation.
Good afternoon, Weber School District Special Education staff and assembled guests. My name is Bryce Weiler. I am the co-founder of the Beautiful Lives Project and the disability consultant for the Baltimore Orioles. I was standing in the cafeteria in my graduate school in Western Illinois, and I had scheduled students to eat with me for dinner. And the students that I'd scheduled had not shown up. So after standing there for about 15 minutes of time and asking students whether or not they'd be willing to help me, I started to walk into the cafeteria to determine if I could find students to help me to get my food, because navigating through a college cafeteria is very hard because people can't decide what they want to eat. They fluctuate between the noodles and the pizza and the hamburger table, and they can't make up their mind. So I was really hungry, and it was an apple pie day, and I like apple pie, and it was a steak fry day, and I like steak fries. So I was kind of upset that the students wouldn't help me. They would just either walk by me or ignore what I had to say when I was asking them if someone could guide me. So I walked into the cafeteria and I asked the first table of students whether or not they'd be willing to help me. and they seemed really nervous to guide me. They just didn't really say anything. So I walked to the table behind them, and I asked them if they'd be willing to help me. And they were willing to help me. They helped me get my food that day, and they helped me throughout the rest of that year, which was my second year of graduate school at Western Illinois. But that wasn't the only day that I faced struggles at Western Illinois, and I'll get to those struggles in a few short moments and minutes. But for me, the struggles came far sooner than that day in Macomb, Illinois in September 2015. Being born almost 4 months premature and due to either too much light or too much oxygen when I was in the hospital, it caused the retinas in my eyes to detach, which caused me to be blind. So for the first couple of days of my life, I was able to see, but I don't remember because I was 3 days old, and who remembers anything when they're 3 days old? And then due to either too much light or too much oxygen in the hospital, it caused the retinas in my eyes to detach, thus causing me to be blind. Growing up, I always enjoyed listening to NASCAR races on the radio and driving around on our driveway on a big wheels. And my parents would always get nervous that I would ride into the garage door, but I'd always listen for the echoes of the sound coming off the door or my mom's large potted plants by the door, and I would always know when to turn, or the large plastic type fence by our pool that had another echo if I got too far that way. And while riding around on that driveway, I'd be listening to Alan Bestwick calling NASCAR, and Barney Hall and Joe Moore and some of the great Motor Racing Network NASCAR radio broadcasters of the 1990s. And listening to my favorite NASCAR driver, Jeff Gordon, having a lot of success in the 1990s. And it was through listening to those NASCAR races that I started to get a visual picture of sports in my head. And furthering upon that, I started listening to college football and college basketball on the radio, listening to Brian Barnhart commentating Illinois football and men's basketball, and Don Fisher commentating Indiana Hoosiers football and men's basketball. It was through listening to those two radio broadcasters that I gained a conceptual picture of the action taking place on the court or the field, but I wanted that opportunity to experience sports and to be as close as I could to the games. It was through the junior college head women's basketball coach at the junior college in my town, Alney Central College, Coach Clint Burris, who played here at Weber State back in 2005-2006 after playing with Coach Simmons at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. Clint Burris introduced me to Coach Marty Simmons, who's a big name in the Midwest. He played for Bob Knight for 2 years back in the 1980s, and he took Lawrenceville High School to back-to-back Illinois state championships. Coach Simmons was the head coach at the University of Evansville at that point in time. He's now the head coach at Eastern Illinois in Charleston, Illinois, about 1 hour where he's from. And Clint helped me to meet Coach Simmons, and Coach Simmons said if I came to Evansville as a student, he would give me the opportunity to be around college basketball and to sit on his Evansville Aces men's basketball bench. Now, some of you might have played sports in high school or college, whether it be football, baseball, basketball, or soccer, maybe some cheerleading or some dance, and you probably didn't enjoy it when you were sitting on the bench because you would have rather been out playing on the court or the field. Well, for me, sitting on the basketball bench was as close as I would ever come to being able to experience college basketball. So I was very grateful for that opportunity that Coach Simmons gave me. And also when I got to Evansville as a student, I became friends with Mike Jacobs, who is now the general manager of Nashville in Major League Soccer. Then he was the Evansville Aces head men's soccer coach. And I explained to Coach Jacobs how Coach Simmons gave me the opportunity to experience college basketball. And Coach Jacobs asked me if I wanted to experience soccer. And I said, well, I don't really know too much about soccer. It kind of confuses me. There's 22 players meandering around on the field at one point in time, and I don't know how I can get a good visual picture of that. But yeah, I'd enjoy being able to experience soccer. So Coach Jacobs gave me the opportunity to sit on his soccer bench at Evansville, and through that, and while I was there during my freshman year, I met Tom Benson, who was running the student radio station at Evansville. And I talked with Tom about growing up listening to broadcasters, and Tom asked me if I wanted to learn how to analyze sporting events on the radio, whether it be men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer, baseball and softball. So I said I did, and Tom started teaching me how to analyze games on the radio. I started broadcasting games as a blind sports broadcaster by studying the style of the play-by-play broadcaster who I was commentating with, by researching facts on the players and the coaches. If I was broadcasting basketball, I would go out and shoot free throws on the court to figure out how the ball would bounce off the rim. It was going to come short off the front of the rim or get a high kick off the back of the rim and then bounce around and dribble on the court to make sure there wasn't any dead spots. If I was broadcasting soccer, I would make sure that there was a good crowd microphone so I could hear the goalkeeper directing his or her players on the field. If I was doing baseball or softball, I would make sure that there was a good crowd microphone by the home plate umpire so I could hear him or her call the pitch, a ball or a strike, or hear that ball bounce in the dirt. So I could always surprise that play-by-play broadcaster by calling the pitch, which would always surprise them. They weren't expecting that. And broadcasting games really gave me the opportunity to share the stories of athletes and coaches, especially female athletes and coaches in such sports as women's basketball, women's soccer, and softball, because unfortunately, women's sports in this country and most other places in the world don't really get the coverage they deserve. So I enjoyed being able to share the stories of players and coaches, both for Evansville and the opposing teams, and really showing those players and coaches that their stories are just as important as the men's athletes and coaches, and really getting those stories out to those who might be listening to those broadcasts, whether it was fans of Evansville or fans of the opposing team who was tuning in. Furthermore, whenever I was at Evansville, I had many students who helped me with shooting free throws in the Evansville practice gym or helping me get my food in the cafeteria, lunch, dinner, breakfast on the weekends. It was always a struggle to get college students to wake up at 11 o'clock in the morning, but I always had a group who would do that and would show up and help me. And having those people was definitely something that I took for granted when I had them at Evansville, because they were always there whenever I would need them. And it's just something that I really expected. And you already heard about some of the struggles I had at Western Illinois. Well, the struggles got a little worse. So after graduating from Evansville in 2014, having studied sports management and sports broadcasting, I decided that I wanted to go to graduate school to gain more practical work experience in sports. So I decided to go to Western Illinois in Macomb, Illinois, because the athletic department staff said they would give me more practical work experience, such as helping out with fundraisers, broadcasting more games on the radio, and a plethora of other activities and opportunities. When I got to Western Illinois, though, the athletic department staff did not want to let me do any of the things that they promised me that I could do, because they didn't think that I could do them since I cannot see, even though I'd raised over $30,000 for cancer research as a student at Evansville. I'd broadcasted over 90 games on the radio at Evansville in a wide range of sports: college basketball, college softball, college soccer, volleyball, one game of volleyball, and it was a little too hard, so I just stuck to the one game of volleyball. But that was a part of the 90 that I'd done at Evansville. But I'd done all those things, and due to the fact that I couldn't see, Western Illinois was taking away my opportunities to learn those things. When I was at graduate school, students really stepped up to help me. Both the Western Illinois cheerleading teams and the Western Illinois dance team really helped me when I was in graduate school, helping me get my food in the cafeteria, taking me when I'd go speak to opposing teams, or when I had other things to do, or when students backed out on me, they would always try to either move their cheer or their dance practice around so they could help me. And I really got to experience cheerleading and dance when I was in graduate school, and also sitting on the Evansville basketball bench. The dance team would always do their practices right in front of me, getting prepared for the Evansville games. And I really got to experience how hard cheerleading and dance teams work, both the players and the coaching staffs on their team, and the lack of credit they are given. And I think that's very unfortunate, because cheerleading and dance teams work just as hard as the football and the basketball teams that they're cheering for, or whose games that they're dancing at. So as I travel across the country to colleges and high schools, I try to speak to as many cheerleading and dance teams as possible. One of the most important things that I did came in April of 2015 at Western Illinois. Gretchen Carlson, who used to be on Fox News, gave me the opportunity to be on her show. and she did a story about my work as a blind sports broadcaster. She sent a producer out to film me broadcasting part of a Burlington Bees game. And before the minor league baseball contraction in 2020, Burlington was single A for the Angels out of California. So went over to Burlington, Iowa, broadcasted a Burlington Bees game, and one of the local Fox stations out of Des Moines, Iowa, wanted to do a story on me broadcasting a game at Western Illinois. Even though this is going to get Western Illinois media coverage, they still wouldn't let me broadcast a game. So I became friends 2 years prior with Joe Pott, the radio voice for Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, out of the Ohio Valley Conference. And SIU Edwardsville was playing at Western Illinois in baseball, and Joe gave me the opportunity to broadcast with him. So the Fox station was able to do their story. But most importantly, it showed Western Illinois that if they didn't want to give me a chance to broadcast the game, that there's someone out there who would. And Joe giving me that chance really showed me that when you don't have opportunities, you need to find someone who believes in you, someone who wants to try to eradicate the barriers and obstacles that are standing in your way to help you to overcome those challenges and to get to do the things that you want to do in your life. That was probably one of the most important radio broadcasts I've ever done because it showed Western Illinois that I could do things. Even though they placed barriers and challenges in my way, that I would do whatever I could to break those barriers and challenges down and to overcome those, to try to help others who have disabilities to be able to live their dreams and to just be able to experience what they were promised by the college staff as a whole. My second year at Western Illinois, I was able to commentate 2 women's basketball games on the radio, 2 men's basketball games, and 3 baseball games. So while 7 is a lot less than the 90 I did at Evansville, 7 is a lot more than the 0 games Western Illinois gave me the chance to broadcast in my first year of graduate school. So after finishing up at Western Illinois in 2016, I thought about what was most impactful in my life. And that was really what Coach Simmons had given me that opportunity to do, sitting on the basketball bench. And secondarily to that, the support I had at Evansville from the students and the staff really teaching me how to broadcast or being there when I needed things. And I didn't want people to have to experience what I experienced at Western Illinois, going through 2 years of people not wanting to help me. And really being so grateful that those cheerleading and the dance team members stood up to help me and that they were always willing to be there for me. So I started working to help sports teams to become more accessible. So I started figuring out email formats for all the teams and leagues, MLB, NBA, hockey, NFL, NASCAR, all the other sports leagues, companies on the New York Stock Exchange as well. And since 2016, I've been helping Baltimore's baseball team to be accessible for people who have disabilities. I've helped the Orioles to make Camden Yards accessible for fans of all disabilities. When the Orioles wore Braille on their jerseys in 2018 to help show the importance of those who are blind learning how to read Braille, that was an event that I helped coordinate for them. And I also assisted all of the patrons who attended that game who were visually impaired or blind. And that game was important because it went beyond baseball to show that sports can be used for more than just what happens on the field. Fans get very obsessed if their favorite team wins or loses the game, but sports can be used as a vehicle to create social change and to show that no matter when someone develops his or her disability, that if you learn the necessary skills, that the world can be opened back up to you. In 2017, I was attending a blind training program in Chicago where I was learning how to cook, how to use PowerPoint and Excel, how to cross streets with 8 lanes of traffic because Chicago has streets that big, and various other opportunities to better myself and to better my skills. The blind training program at that time did not have enough teachers to teach the students how to read Braille. Well, since I've known how to read Braille since the age of 5, and I know the 124 contractions for words or short portions of words, they decided they were going to have me teach the students, and I said I'd be glad to teach them since they didn't have enough teachers. And most of these students had become blind partway through their life through, unfortunately, gang activity, sickness, illness, some other types of accidents and things like that. So the hardest part, it wasn't teaching them how to read Braille. It was changing their mindset that learning Braille can open up the entire world to them again. They can make sure they walk into the bathroom they want to walk into and not the wrong one. That they can read signs on doors. They can read books and magazines, and really teaching them how to read Braille. It was more about changing their mindset because they had developed their disability partway through their life. And that was when I realized that it's a lot different when someone develops his or her disability before they can remember anything different as compared to when they develop that disability partway through their life. Some of you might be teaching students and you wonder why it might be so hard to get someone to do something, or you might offer to give them help and they might be really rude and not want your help, or tell you they don't want your help in probably not the best fashion. Now, sometimes that could be just because they're rude, but secondarily, maybe they developed being blind or being in a wheelchair partway through their life or just recently. And they don't feel comfortable really taking that help yet, or they have a hard time accepting that they have to use a cane so they can do what they need to do to be successful. And teaching those students who were blind and visually impaired in Chicago really showed me that you really have to value everyone's differences. And you really have to think about every person and every disability as their own unique case and their own unique set of opportunities and their own unique way to help them to have success in life. As I've been working with sports teams and companies throughout this country, it's been really interesting trying to convince companies to make their social media accessible. Just first with that. Certain companies want to put alt text on social media. Alt text is a written description that can be typed in by a social media coordinator that describes what's going on in a picture. So that helps someone who's visually impaired or blind to better understand the picture if they have screen reading functions turned on. Secondarily, that can help people who have certain learning disabilities to better understand the picture if they know that there's alt text there so that they can read the written caption and then see the picture. So reading those words can help certain groups as well to understand the picture because they're able to put the written word together with the visual picture that they're able to see. And for those who cannot see the picture at all, or can only see it a little because they might be visually impaired, the alt text helps them. So really trying to interest companies in doing that. Something that's been harder to interest companies, sports teams, and even school districts in doing is putting audio descriptions on videos. Even though school districts across the country, even the largest ones you think who should be doing these things, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, they're not putting alt text on their social media posts, nor are they putting audio descriptions on their videos. Audio descriptions are important, once again, for the same two groups of people, those who are visually impaired or blind, and also those who may have certain learning disabilities who can see the picture, but if they have a description they can listen to while the video is going on, it better helps them to understand through contextual clues what is going on in the video. And those are all gaps in the accessibility codes because there's no laws that say New York and Chicago schools, you have to have alt text on your social media by 2025. I can email New York and Chicago schools because I have their email formats figured out, and I can tell them what I've done with the Orioles, and I can send them 2 examples of videos that have audio descriptions, but convincing them to do that is a harder thing because sometimes they think, oh, it's going to cost money. And some things do cost money, such as running a proper hiring program to hire people with disabilities for employment, which I'll talk about in a little bit because everyone wants their students to find jobs and employment. But most things just is about convincing the staff to do it, convincing the social media coordinator that if they take the time to put alt text on the social media posts, that it's going to change people's life, that they can really have fun with their descriptions. That if they put audio descriptions on videos, it will open up the entire world to people who need it, and it will show everyone how a given team, company, or school district wants to help people of all disabilities to be able to have life-changing moments and experiences. Now, for schools, websites are important, and websites have accessibility gaps too. A website could be fully text-based without a single picture or a video. And by the written laws of accessibility in the codes, that website would be fully accessible. And by the written laws, people wouldn't have anything to complain about. But for those who have trouble understanding written text, those who struggle to read the written text, adding in videos and pictures that describes the content, or videos and pictures somehow summarizing what is on a page, that will help those individuals to better help understand a website, and also apps as well, which are very heavily text-based. Once again, these are things that when I share them with school districts, companies and sports teams, they don't want to do it because they go by the written laws of accessibility. So often in your special education training, they train you on certain things, certain codes and certain things of that nature, but they never train you on the gaps in the codes. And I used to really think about just the codes. And when I go through a website, I would just go by the various accessibility guidelines until one day I randomly searched learning disability in my document because I thought, what did I write about learning disabilities? And I came up with no results for learning disabilities. And I thought, why didn't I write anything about learning disabilities? And I thought, well, the codes don't really say too much about learning disabilities. So spent another 40 or 50 hours going back through the website and came up with the things that I mentioned to you previously about gaps in text and pictures and videos, and really have been trying to get companies, sports teams, school districts, whoever should be doing that, to do that, but especially schools where their main focus is upon helping students to be successful. And I'm out here because of Dr. Rod Belknap, who had me speak to his staff yesterday who are helping students to find careers and jobs through some specialized programs. They're building tiny houses, they're doing something with drones, they're doing all sorts of fun job-based activities. And Dr. Belknap spoke about wanting to engage more companies to partner with those staff and those teachers who he's having teach in his various programs. And while it's important to obtain companies to partner, school districts, when they're doing these type of programs, because Utah and various other states across the country has a similar base program, some states do better than others. I think Utah, in my experience, has a more comprehensive program for that type of work than a lot of other states in this country. But as a staff is putting together their community-based partners, really thinking about how they're going to try to get a company to raise what they're doing for people who have disabilities. For example, how can you set a timeline to say you have to maybe rank a company by its gross profits every year, because a small bank, say in Ogden, Utah, might not be able to do as much as a large technology company in Salt Lake City. But all these companies should be putting some sort of an effort towards helping people who have disabilities and really shepherding that along in these programs, so that if you have students who have disabilities, whether they be in special education or they make the choice to go through the mainstream education and get assistance from maybe a Braille teacher, such as the nice two Braille teachers sitting over there, or staff teaching them how to use their cane, or sign language interpreters for those who are deaf, really finding a way to get the community-based companies and groups that are coming into schools thinking about how they can not only serve the mainstream students, but serving those who have disabilities, and really setting up their programs, their hiring processes, and their entire company base as a whole to really complement everyone, no matter his or her disability or challenge. On the hiring side of things, working to ensure that a human resources staff, making sure someone knows how to read Braille on that staff, making sure they have proper capabilities to put documents into Braille, documents into large print, ensuring that a staff knows how to use sign language, or if they don't have a staff member trained in sign language, to ensure that the staff is connected to a video phone service where they can connect with someone who's deaf and speak over phone to a person who can hear and go back and forth in that fashion. These are all things that schools and most part companies, because the companies should be thinking about it. Schools have enough challenges every day, getting the students motivated to learn, helping them through their IEPs to be successful, modifying IEPs for what a given student might need. On the mainstream side is helping students with other issues and challenges, and really helping them to be successful. So the companies should be thinking about this, but if the companies aren't doing it, it might be up to the high schools to really start doing this, because the colleges have never really started doing this type of thing. Colleges want to bring students in to try to raise more funds for their school. They want to help them to find a major, but most times colleges don't really know how to help students who have disabilities to find employment. Some colleges do a lot better than others, and some colleges have no idea. But for certain students, they have no desire to go to college, or they just don't want to go to college right now. So in certain aspects, high school might be the time where they're figuring out their career through Dr. Rod's programs or some of the other programs in this district or across Utah as a whole or this country as a whole. So really working with those companies to create these type of programs and to show them that some of this might be scary if you don't know how to do it, but this is going to help out you, this is going to help out the country as a whole, and it's going to help everyone to be able to live the American dream. That's why people come to America from foreign countries, to achieve the freedoms and the liberties that we have every day, and for people not to be able to have these experiences, to not go beyond the written codes to make websites accessible, and to not think about every disability when they're doing something. People love to really talk about their percentages of disabilities in the country, and it's between 20 to 25. Some people think that's a lot. I don't necessarily know. I don't personally think 20 to 25 is a high number. It is what it is, so I've never really stayed with the number. I've tried to show people that if you know one person with a disability, or you teach one person with a disability, you should try to do the best you can to help that person have the most optimal experience. And whatever the actual number is in this country, whether it's 20% or 22.3, it doesn't matter what the number is, because every person is their own unique individual, and every person deserves his or her own opportunity to live the American dream and to be successful in this country. You've all taken a great amount of time to learn such specialized skills in special education, to work with so many of the disabilities that I've been speaking about today, those who have learning disabilities, those who are deaf, those who are blind, those who are in wheelchairs, who I haven't spoke about today because we haven't talked about accessibility of making buildings more accessible. But you've spent all this time learning all these great skills, so you've spent so much time dedicating yourself. And you've shown that you have the passion to do it. So using your passion to now bring that to the companies, bring that to the sports teams, bring that to your district, to the districts around you. I try my hardest 6.5 days a week. I take off half a day on Sundays, but other than that, I'm figuring out email formats, I'm convincing people, I'm making documents, and I'm trying to help everyone to do what I've done with the Orioles, because what I've done with the Orioles isn't just sports. People say, oh, Bryce has helped sports teams, and I've helped sports teams, yes, with the Orioles, but I've also helped Everfi, Great Television, who is the largest local television station owner in this country, and various other groups and companies as well. And anything that you do with a sports team can be done at a school district, it can be done at a company. Now, let's talk about building accessibility for a little bit. There's some given guidelines for buildings. There's also gaps in a building accessibility, and the same for a stadium. In stadiums, there's often wide open areas, such as in this gym. And if someone who's blind or used a cane came into this gym, they might tend to get sucked up by the open space because it's a very large, echoey place. But putting down a tactile strip, a long tactile strip, on each side of the floor, whether it be of a hallway, a gym, or a stadium concourse, or someone who's blind could just trail down that strip. And maybe if there was a concession stand to their right, or a bathroom door or something, you'd have a certain raised dot or a certain different texture so they know branching off to the right is this new given aspect they can go explore, or they already know, okay, next is the popcorn stand if they're in Camden Yards. So that's one thing. Secondarily, for those who have trouble understanding written text, adding in more pictures to signs, pictures showing what a concession stand sells, pictures showing this is a history room. Maybe you have a sarcophagus as your picture, and then it says History 112, and then people know, okay, that's what that is. If they can see it, if they can read Braille, they can read the 112, they can read history, and if they need what I talked about before with being able to understand part of the picture, but then having that written word, it covers all of that. So these are all gaps that are in, whether it be building codes, hiring practices, apps, websites, and social media. And teachers do such a great job helping students to overcome the obstacles and challenges that they face, especially the teachers who are in special education. I know if it wasn't for the teachers I had growing up when I was younger in public school, Mrs. Kathy Selby, who taught me how to read Braille, Mrs. Sue Ginder, who was my aide, and she would always write all my Braille out in print so that my teachers and instructors could read what I wrote. and Mrs. Jane Redmond, who taught me how to use my cane and taught me how to cross streets when I was younger before I went to the blind training program in Chicago. If it wasn't for those teachers, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing today with helping companies to be successful and with really showing people that it's important to help every disability to be able to live their dreams in life and to overcome obstacles and challenges. And that's also why I started my nonprofit, the Beautiful Labs Project, in May of 2017. I emailed Anthony Acavone, who was owning the New Britain Bees baseball team of the Atlantic League at that point in time, and I explained to Anthony how sitting on the Evansville men's basketball bench had changed my life, and also about my work as a blind sports radio analyst and broadcaster, and how I wanted to help people with disabilities to have life-changing moments in sports, performing with cheerleading and dance teams, to give them that experience, but also to help promote cheerleading and dance, and also to give people with disabilities the chance to do art, painting, and sculpture. But as a secondary benefit of that, helping people with disabilities to gain friendships with the players and coaches from those teams, with staff from art studios, staff from a cheerleading team or a dance studio, so that people with disabilities don't have to go through what I went through in Western Illinois, because that was definitely the two hottest years of my life, knowing that I should have these opportunities, but due to the fact that I cannot see, and due to someone not being willing to go beyond the physical inabilities that I might have, not being able to see, and the fact that I could make that up with my ears through listening, or the fact that I could make that up through my mind with thinking of ways that I could overcome the obstacles and challenges that are put in my way. I didn't want people who have disabilities to have to go through that again, because it's not something that people who have disabilities deserve, because they have enough obstacles and challenges placed in their way every day. So we started doing the Beautiful Labs Project in 2017, doing programs where adults and children of all disabilities were able to play on the field with the New Britain Bees baseball team. And the Beautiful Labs Project events are special because we keep the events open for adults and children of any disability. We don't have age restrictions of 18 years or 21 years old, or just for learning disabilities, or just for those who are blind. We think it's important to have disabilities coming together, age groups coming together, and we work to make all activities accessible for everyone so that those who have different disabilities can come together, they can share in their successes, they can bond together to overcome the obstacles and the naysayers, and they can work to make this country a better place. And through that, we also work to give them opportunities to have experiences with their favorite sports teams, whether it's playing on the field with Boston College football, Michigan State football, high school softball players at an AAU Triple Crown tournament in Denver, Colorado. That's where I was at back in June. We had 110 individuals, adults and children with disabilities, playing on 2 softball fields simultaneously with 6 AAU softball teams from across the country. I really especially enjoyed that event because it also allowed people to understand how hard softball players and coaches work, and the fact that softball is willing to make its sport be available to everyone. And so that's what we do with the Beautiful Labs Project. And I hope the next time I come out to Utah, we can have some events, maybe with Weber State or with your school district, maybe doing some events where some of the students in your district might be able to perform with your cheerleading team at halftime of a football game or halftime of a basketball game. That's actually one of the best events we've done is with the high school cheerleading team in my town. And they're all high school students. So students from the district, whether they be in high school, middle school, elementary school, they're able to perform with the cheerleaders at halftime. And that's led to so many friendships between the cheerleaders, and they're going to now visit with the students, whether the students be in high school, middle school, kindergarten through 5th grade. And that's always really special because it's bringing peers together to help overcome the obstacles and challenges, and it's giving the parents the opportunity to see what their child can do if they're given opportunities. I know sometimes that can be hard for you because parents, they might want their children to have opportunities, or they might feel sometimes nervous to give their child opportunities because of his or her disability, or because of what someone might have said to them or have done to them in the past. While there's always going to be hard days, such as the 2 years I had at Western Illinois, going through those days makes you better because you're able to realize how hard it was making it through those days, and you're able to understand that you don't want to have to go through that again, and you don't want others to have to go through that again. So you work as hard as you can, whether it be myself trying to work with sports teams or companies or all of you as teachers and special education staff really working to show the students that you're going to help them as much as you can to be successful. You're going to try and help them modify any issues they might have, whether it be behavioral issues or maybe trouble learning how to read Braille because they have sensitive fingers or whatever it might be. But then they have to come through and do their part to really study and to pay attention in the best way that they can, understanding sometimes paying attention might be hard for them based on the given disability or other challenge, but trying to do that in the best way that they can so that yourself, their parents, their caregivers, the other school administration staff throughout Weber School District can better help them to be prepared for society as a whole and to be prepared to overcome those obstacles and challenges and to better help make this world be an accessible place. Everyone deserves his or her opportunity to live their dream in life. I know sitting on the Evansville basketball bench was something that I dreamed about being able to do, being able to experience college basketball. I got to go shoot free throws before Evansville home games and throw chest passes. I got to visit with coaches, such as my friend Brad Stevens, who used to coach Butler, who's now with the Boston Celtics, and various other coaches. But more than just visiting with the coaches and more than just the wins and the losses on the basketball court, it was really being able to have that experience of being a part of a team and knowing that Coach Simmons and the Evansville players and coaches really cared for me, and that Evansville's dance team members would be there to help me shoot free throws, and really just giving me that chance to have that experience, to be able to be a part of college basketball and to sit on the bench and to show people that if you give individuals who have disabilities opportunities, if they're going to do the best they can with those opportunities to help others and to really use the opportunities that you give them to be able to live their dreams and to show the people who doubt that they can do things, that a person with a disability can do anything that they dream of doing in their life if someone only gives them that opportunity. I've now broadcasted 157 games tomorrow, or today, as of right now, whether that be in whole or in part. Tomorrow is game number 158, as your Weber School District is having a night at the Ogden Raptors baseball game. They're home from a 3-game series against the Northern Colorado Owls, where they lost the last 2 games in the home run derby because they don't like to play extra innings now in the lower independent leagues. They think home run derby is fun, so they lost in home run derby 2 nights in a row. They're back home playing Northern Colorado tomorrow. But tomorrow I am broadcasting either the 1st through 4th innings or 2nd through 5th innings on the Ogden Raptors radio network with their radio broadcaster, Mr. Richard Armstrong. I never spoke to Richard until last Friday. I got his number from the front office staff, called him up and told him what I'd done with the Orioles. I broadcasted games on the radio as a blind analyst and broadcaster, and I asked him whether or not he'd be willing to broadcast with me. And Richard was very excited to broadcast with me, and that doesn't always happen. Broadcasters are sometimes nervous to give me the opportunity to broadcast with them or to even do a pregame interview with me, because even though I have clips of when I was on the Orioles radio and television network back in May, or Evansville basketball from 2013, it can still just scare some broadcasters. So tomorrow is going to be a great day broadcasting with Richard Armstrong. It's been 3 months and 2 days since I've last broadcasted 3 innings of a Lansing Lugnuts game out in Michigan with my friend Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, the voice of the Lansing Lugnuts. So hopefully all of you can come out to the Ogden Raptors game tomorrow. Only problem, don't know how you can access the game. So the game is being streamed on Flow Sports, which is an app. All the Major League Baseball partner leagues are now on Flow Sports. Flow Sports does have a monthly subscription fee, which is about $30. So hopefully we can find a way, maybe one person has Flow Sports and 50 people go gather around an iPhone and you put up to 100% volume and you listen to me broadcast 4 innings on the Ogden Raptors network. So don't really know how people are going to listen, but that'll be something to figure out tomorrow. And I'm grateful for Richard for giving me that opportunity to broadcast with him, and also for Dr. Belknap for bringing me out to speak both yesterday to his staff, and then for Jared and the other staff for giving me the chance to speak to all of you today, because contrary to what people might think, it's a lot harder to set up a speech to a school district than you might think it would be. This is the 4th school that I've ever spoken to. St. Francis of Pennsylvania I spoke to their student athletes last year. I spoke to the schools in my home district at home in Illinois, and Flora High School in my state, about 25 minutes from my house, has given me the opportunity to speak to their students. And I've contacted all sorts of other schools throughout the country to see if they'd let me come speak. Said, hey, this is what I charge. I'll do whatever you want to pay me. I'll even come for free if you can't pay me, because these things are important. And they still don't want to let me, even through going through all of that. So whenever Dr. Belknap and Jared wanted to give me the opportunity to come speak, I was very excited, because I think teachers as a whole need to be recognized for the work that they do every day. Because if it wasn't for teachers, students wouldn't be able to do whatever they want to do in life, whether it's special education teachers such as yourself, teaching those who have disabilities such as myself how to be successful, or the mainstream teachers working with their students, or Dr. Rod's teachers teaching them how to build tiny homes, drones, and all the other fun bike repairs. They're repairing bikes this year now too, and whatever other interesting programs he finds that can help people to find jobs and to find employment. Everyone's doing their part to help students to really be successful, and that's something that really should be given more credit. Teachers don't really get the credit they deserve, because teachers, they work really hard, and they work their 8 hours, and then after that they have to go home, they have to do their lesson plans, or they have to grade homework. So people say, oh, teachers have a great job. They get the summer off. They work 8 to 3. It's like being a banker, but you get out 2 hours early. But no, teachers have to go home. They have to grade homework. They have to do lesson plans. So just hopefully really showing what teachers can do, and really helping the world to value teachers more, so that teachers can get better pay as a start, because teachers in certain states can take a very long time to make a very good wage. Other states have a really good payment scale. Actually, the best state for teachers is Michigan, because Michigan has a low cost of living. And Michigan pays their teachers, I guess, decently well. And comparing that with the low cost of living, Michigan is ranked number 1 for the gross pay of a teacher. That was really interesting to find last week. That was fun. Reading all the state rankings and things like that. As to where Utah ranked, I don't know. I decided Michigan was 1, and all right, Michigan's 1. I'm going to go with that for my commentary. But as I think about the things that I've been able to do in my life, yes, it's been about me pursuing things, whether it's figuring out how I can email John Angelos, the owner of the Orioles, but it's also been about all the people who've given me the opportunity, who've helped me, whether it's Tom Benson teaching me how to analyze games on the radio as a blind broadcaster, Marty Simmons giving me that chance to sit on his Evansville Aces men's basketball bench, all the students at Evansville who helped me with getting my food in the cafeteria, the students who helped out when I was at Western Illinois, who stepped up whenever others felt nervous to guide me since I can't see. And really, all of you have that opportunity to impact students' lives every day. You're doing it now, and you'll continue to do it in the future. People often ask me who are some of the favorite people that I've met in my life, and they often want to hear about coaches like Rick Pitino and Brad Stevens, who I've been friends with for a while. And yes, they're important to my life, but everyone can impact someone's life, no matter what his or her job title might be in life. If you just take the time to really give back to others and to help them to really realize that you care about them, you could really help them to be successful. And that's really what I try to do in my work, really trying to get companies to bridge all of the gaps that I've told you about right now in the certain accessibility categories, whether it's in the app or the website or in other categories, really helping those companies to realize that everyone deserves that chance to be successful in life. And school is the best opportunity for that, because all of you are teaching the future leaders of tomorrow, and your other teachers are teaching them as well. Some days I might be emailing those people 10 to 15 years down the line saying, we need to do this to help your company to be accessible, teaching HR staff how to read Braille, or how to do sign language, or whatever it might be. So all of you have a greater impact on society as a whole, and some of you may have started teaching before the pandemic, some of you might have started after, but for those of you who made it through any portion of the pandemic where you either had to teach from home or spend all day talking in a very hot cloth mask, if you were able to make it through that and still maintain your love and your passion for teaching, I don't think anything is going to stop you from being successful and from helping the future leaders of this country to be able to live their dreams, and to helping to make this world be as great of a place as possible. I know they have some fun mingling and activities gathered and set up for you here in a little bit. I just wanted to share with you before we're done the website for my nonprofit for the Beautiful Lives Project. It is www.beautifullives.org. If you'd like to go on there, you can watch some fun videos, see some pictures of our event. If you'd like to donate, all of the funds that we raise goes to purchase items that we need, such as sign language interpreters, specialized equipment, or helping cover my travel costs so I can get to the events, because the participants don't really like it when I'm not there. And so I try to make it across the country to every single one that I can. You could also donate in check or in cash if you wanted. I can tell you where to mail the checks, or we can work that out. But I wanted to thank all of you for letting me come. If you wanted to visit, I have time later tonight open. I'm free all day tomorrow till I go broadcast some baseball, maybe play a little catch on the field with the manager of the Ogden Raptors, Mr. Cash Beecham. So if you want to come have some baseball adventures, I can probably get 2 of you in early to come have some baseball adventures playing catch on the field. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. Thank you, Dr. Rod Belknap, for allowing me to come speak. Thank you for watching my video during the 2022 NCAA tournament and for giving me a chance to inspire another school. Jared and the other special education staff, thank you for giving me the chance to come speak to all of the special education teachers today. This is a speech that I've been looking forward to since I found out I was going to have it 3 weeks ago, and I've been planning it on my 4-mile treadmill walks every morning. Now I'm thinking of something else on my 4-mile treadmill walk. That's okay. And I'll be happy to take any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the chance to come speak with you here today. So if you have a question, just say your name, say what you teach. They were supposed to say a fact